Hey everyone, it's John here from Hockey to talk about Alex Galchenyuk, and many insiders have talked about Alex Galchenyuk being involved in trade rumors, trade talks, and I just think if you look at Alex Galchenyuk's season so far, as I make this video, 21 games in, only 10 points. He was acquired by the Arizona Coyotes from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Max Domi, and then part of the package going to the Penguins, sending Kessel the other way to the Coyotes. So started in Montreal. He was drafted in the first round, third overall in the 2012 NHL entry draft, then to the Coyotes, and then now at the Penguins where he's struggling. And not that this is like a big representation of what kind of player he is, and we don't really use plus minus as much. But if you're looking at the last 3 years, he's in the minus. The last 5 years, he's in the minus. But with Montreal, his last season in Montreal, minus 31, minus 19 with Arizona, and so far a minus 3. So it kind of represents just in the fact that that's why he's never really became a center. He can't really play that 200-foot game. Sometimes he can't kind of take those responsibilities and play that kind of role. We've seen him on the wing and have some more success, but he has been inconsistent in general. So with Rutherford, we know Rutherford in Pittsburgh, he doesn't really like holding on to rentals. He likes moving on from rentals and acquiring guys with term. And with Galchenyuk, he knows he should be getting more from Galchenyuk. At the end of the day, it's a guy that when they were acquiring him, not necessarily replacing Kessel in any sense, but a guy you could put on the power play, a guy you can play potentially in that top six with centers like Crosby or Malkin. Obviously, Crosby's been injured, but with Malkin potentially, and that just hasn't happened. And he's found himself on the fourth line. And this was a quote from Jim Rutherford, the GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The fact of the matter is, when we're totally healthy, he's going to have to work very hard just to get into the top 12. The top 12, that's all four lines. So kind of referring to the fact that Galchenyuk could be scratched when players come back from injuries. So is he going to get traded? That was a big intro, but we're going to talk about 7 potential trade destinations for Alex Galchenyuk from now until the trade deadline. I would expect, if this is how Rutherford feels, he should probably trade him sooner rather than later. So let's go through the teams. So Elliot Freeman on Hockey Night in Canada talked about the Buffalo Sabres being one of the teams that have checked in on Galchenyuk. I think the Sabres, they've wanted offense. That's been their biggest need. Yes, there's been question marks in net. They have a crowded defense core right now, and the Penguins have struggled with their depth on defense, specifically with when they do have injuries. But the Buffalo Sabres, in a general sense, could cash in on a guy that is not producing. They could acquire him while his value is lower and could play in a top 6 role. Again, I think in terms of the defensive aspect, maybe it's not a great thing to play with a guy like Jack Eichel, but we've seen players, obviously, whether it's a comeback with what you saw with Jeff Skinner or Victor Olofsson having a great year with Jack Eichel, so maybe that's an option, but I do think the Buffalo Sabres could be a good option, and it is right now one of the hardest rumors we have around Galchenyuk. So the Colorado Avalanche. I think for the Avalanche, if you strike out on Taylor Hall, this is your cheap option. This is your cheap option to jump into the top 9. I don't necessarily think this is one of the best options, more because I think the Avalanche, in terms of production, have a lot of players like Galchenyuk, like the 40, 50-point guys. So not necessarily the greatest fit, but if they do strike out on Taylor Hall, I think this is a way of not spending too much assets or not giving away a lot of assets, because I think at the end of the day, Galchenyuk will only maybe require a second or third round pick at most to go the other way. I think that's the very ceiling right now, because you're talking about a guy, Rutherford's not trying to hide it, a guy that's playing fourth line minutes some nights, and maybe when players come back, maybe not even in the lineup at all. So next up, the Edmonton Oilers. I do think this is the best fit. We just saw what happened with James Neal this year, whether it's on the power play or 5v5, getting time with guys like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So I think if you're looking at Galchenyuk, this might be the best fit, sending him out west, playing with the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers lack depth. That is one of their biggest problems this year. If not their biggest problem, is depth. After that top 6, what do they have? So if Galchenyuk gets an opportunity in the top 6 or maybe third line, then obviously players slide down. You have a more skilled lineup. So I think Galchenyuk could get an opportunity in Edmonton, a better opportunity with other teams on this list. And I think Edmonton, to be honest, is one of the better opportunities here. All right, the St. Louis Blues. I think this is more of the fact that the Blues just have injuries, whether it's Tarasenko, Alex Steen, Sammy Blais. They've had injuries, and I think the Blues are confident in what they have, confident that they could potentially go back-to-back Stanley Cup champs, And this would be a guy that you don't have to give up assets. You don't have to give up a lot of pieces to acquire a guy that could be a decent piece going into the playoff run. So I think the Blues are just an option there, just in terms of being a Stanley Cup contender once again and making a move prior to the trade deadline. Not just to make a move, but I think Galchenyuk could be a wild card that you acquire. All right, so the Winnipeg Jets, I think, again, it's kind of the same thing. The Jets have injury problems. They've had injury problems this year. And, I think Galchenyuk maybe fits into the top 6, but right now their top 6 is pretty solidified, unless Jack Roslovic, for example, dropped down. But maybe he plays on the third line with guys like Adam Lowry, Matthew Perreault. But I think there's an opportunity there. Again, I think it's more likely that you send him out west. I don't think Galchenyuk is a guy you send within your division to even get that risk that he could bounce back with a different team. Again, it could happen. Maybe the Penguins just don't see the value and just want to move on. But he's only been here for half the year. And in Pittsburgh, you kind of just want to, I guess, move on in a sense, if that's Rutherford's perspective, and acquire a different guy potentially, whether it's on the back end or up front with term. And I think that's Rutherford's kind of movement for what he wants to do with this team. All right, so the Boston Bruins, I think this is another great opportunity. The Bruins have been known to acquire a forward or two prior to the deadline. We've seen them do it with Rick Nash. Last year was Charlie Coyle. Galchenyuk, indifferent, has struggled. So maybe the Bruins can pair him up or get him on a line with some skilled forwards, get some momentum going. Maybe on that second line with Krejci and DeBrusk. Who knows? If they keep that top line together or if they separate it, what if you tried Galchenyuk with, say, Marchand and Bergeron, or Bergeron and Pasternak? Try to get his momentum going, try to get his confidence back up. It could be a scenario where we haven't really seen Galchenyuk play with top end forward, where there's two other very skilled forwards on that line. So maybe that's a potential with the Boston Bruins. Okay, so two teams here, San Jose, Calgary, San Jose, Calgary. I think pick one of these teams to be the 7th trade destination for Galchenyuk, possibly. I just think for both these teams, are they going to be a seller? Are they going to be a buyer? They're both trying to decide what they're going to be this year. Obviously, we're in December as I make this video, so it is early, but both teams have been inconsistent. Both teams haven't maintained a playoff spot or been in a playoff spot for most of this year. So I think both these teams could use forward help. Both these teams could take a chance on Galchenyuk. And I was kind of looking at these two teams as one of my last for the trade destinations for this video. So you guys can let me know. I think both these teams have struggled with injuries as well. San Jose lost some depth. They lost a guy like Donskoy. They lost their captain in Pavelski. And we saw them signing, bringing back Patrick Marleau with the Calgary Flames, the inconsistencies from forwards, the struggles from a star like Johnny Gaudreau, Sam Bennett. Is he going to move on? So I think Galchenyuk could be an option again there. So San Jose, Calgary, you let me know in the comments. But that is it for this video. Let me know in the comment section. I think Galchenyuk will be traded. I think it's out of the rentals in the market right now, I think he is one of the most likely to be traded unless something changes significantly, maybe when Crosby comes back. But I think in the way that Rutherford's talking, not even being in the top 12, I think he moves on. And obviously, I think they're going to try to get a draft pick back or maybe just a player back, a 1-for-1 that is maybe struggling on a team as well. I didn't really mention many players struggling. But I think Galchenyuk, honestly, it's ridiculous. I mean, struggles defensively, production now. I mean, we thought going to the Penguins he was going to, 10 points in 21 games isn't ridiculous, but we just thought he was going to be a better player and fit better in that system. But it just hasn't worked out, so we'll see what happens. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you are new to the channel. Drop a like, comment your thoughts. This was John from RPO Bay Adelaide. Have a good one. Peace out.